This book does not arrive by accident. Something in the architecture of your awareness called it forward, not through searching, not through scrolling, but through a quieter kind of pull that most people never learn to recognize. 3 days. That is the window. Not a metaphor, not a poetic device. Something in the field around you has already begun to reorganize itself. The preparation started before you pressed play, before you found this, before you even knew you were looking. And if part of you feels that this is somehow meant for you specifically, that feeling is worth paying attention to. There is a particular kind of person who finds their way to content like this. Not the kind who follows trends, not the kind who needs someone else to confirm what is real. You have likely spent a significant portion of your life feeling slightly out of phase with the world around you, as though everyone else received a manual you were never given, as though the conversations most people find satisfying leave you strangely empty, as though you can perceive things in rooms that others cannot sense at all. That is not a malfunction. The exhaustion from surface-level conversation, the overstimulation in crowded spaces, the way you absorb the emotional atmosphere of everyone around you. These are not weaknesses waiting to be corrected. They are the signature of a particular kind of awareness, one that is becoming more necessary, not less, in what is quietly unfolding right now. The universe speaks in vibrations, not words. You are its instrument, tuning yourself to the frequency of possibility. Your inner landscape is not a fixed terrain, but a living, breathing canvas where thoughts move and emotions leave their hidden signatures. Picture your consciousness as a radio receiver. Most people remain locked onto a single station, convinced it represents the full spectrum of available transmission. But you have always sensed other frequencies. You have always known, even when you could not articulate it, that the dial could be moved. Each subtle shift in your internal frequency sends ripples through the quantum field, signaling your deepest intentions outward into a responsive universe. Your belief is not merely a thought, it is a command. When you genuinely feel the reality of your desire, not hope for it, not wish toward it, but know it with the same certainty, you know the ground beneath your feet. You activate a mechanism of manifestation that has been operational long before modern science developed language to describe it. The law of attraction is not magic in the theatrical sense. It is precision. It is alignment. It is the mathematical reliability that like attracts like, that your internal state determines your external experience, with a consistency that begins to feel almost startling once you learn to observe it clearly. Your thoughts are not whispers dissolving into emptiness. They are broadcasts into a universe that is always listening, always arranging, always responding. Every emotion carries a specific vibration. Joy resonates at a higher frequency than doubt. Confidence moves at a different register than fear. You are learning to become a deliberate conductor of these energetic currents, understanding that what you consistently feel, you inevitably draw toward you. This is not about controlling external circumstances through willpower. This is about mastering your internal landscape with something far more elegant than force. Your power lies not in pushing outcomes into existence, but in cultivating the energetic conditions where those outcomes naturally surface. Listen, the universe is always communicating. The only question worth sitting with right now is whether you are ready to truly receive what it has been trying to say. Before we move deeper into this experience, Take a moment to set your intention. Affirm quietly to yourself that you are open, that you are ready, that whatever has been preparing to shift in your life, you are no longer standing in its way. Consider someone like Mildred, whose morning garden ritual revealed a truth hidden in plain sight. Each day she would step into her small patch of earth, watering can in hand, humming a melody that seemed effortless, yet was perfectly synchronized with her inner state. Her flowers did not simply grow. They flourished with a vitality that puzzled everyone around her. What her neighbors could not perceive was the invisible thread connecting her gentle humming to the resilient blooming surrounding her. Her joy was not merely an emotion. It was a frequency, a living transmission that nourished every leaf and petal. This is how the universe communicates, not through dramatic announcements, but through the subtle resonance of your internal state. Your thoughts are not passive mental constructions. They are energetic broadcasts that shape the world forming around you. When you move through life with ease, existence tends to respond with abundance in kind. Clarence understood this language differently. Sitting beside a tranquil lake one autumn morning, he arrived at a realization that would reshape his entire understanding of how energy moves between a person and their circumstances. He had carried worry like a stone he could not put down, believing that constant concern could somehow shield him from uncertainty. But as he released his anxieties to the open air, something remarkable occurred. Ducks began gliding toward him unbothered, graceful, embodying a peace he had almost forgotten was available to him. Their movement was a gentle reminder that release carries more influence than resistance. Each creature seemed to demonstrate, without words, that trust is lighter than fear, and that surrender creates space for unexpected harmony to enter. Your connection to the intelligence underlying all things is not complicated. It is as organic and profound as a song, as instinctive as breathing. When you align your internal frequency with what you genuinely desire, truly feel it, not merely think it, you become a powerful attractor for transformation. The practice is subtle, yet its effects compound over time. Each evening, find stillness and breathe into the emotion of peace, as if offering a quiet song to your future self, until your entire body settles into the same calm as that lake. In the quiet symphony of existence, you are not merely an observer, but the conductor of your life's orchestra. The intelligence of the universe listens intently to the music of your inner world, waiting to harmonize with the melody of your deepest convictions. Dorothy's discovery carries an ancient truth. Your reflection is more than a surface image. It is a portal. When she began speaking with genuine kindness to herself, treating her mirror image as a cherished companion rather than a subject of criticism, something extraordinary began to unfold. The world around her started resonating with the same gentle frequency she projected outward. Imagine standing before your own reflection, not with judgment, but with unwavering compassion. Each word you offer yourself becomes a seed planted in the fertile ground of reality. Your thoughts are not passive. They are active creators, alive with the capacity to transform. Consider Leonard, the unassuming craftsman whose hands created more than material objects. With each completed piece, he would pause and offer gratitude, not merely for the work, but for the journey of the person who would eventually carry it. His appreciation was a silent blessing, an invisible thread weaving connection between his craft and an unknown recipient. The universal principle of resonance operates with remarkable consistency. It does not distinguish between your inner dialogue and your external circumstances. What you consistently believe, what you consistently feel, becomes the blueprint that reality constructs around you. Your thoughts are not weightless. They are electromagnetic signals broadcasting your deepest expectations into the quantum field. When you align your inner conversation with the reality you wish to inhabit, you become a magnetic force for transformation. Reflection is not about achieving perfection, but about recognition. Recognizing the intelligence that moves through you, acknowledging the capacity within you that requires no external validation to be real. Your words, spoken to yourself with genuine care and respect, create ripples that extend far beyond your immediate awareness. The world is not happening to you. It is happening through you. Your inner state is the lens through which all experiences are filtered, interpreted, and ultimately drawn into form. Each morning, stand before your reflection. Look into your own eyes with full presence. Speak words of potential, of trust, of unconditional acknowledgement. Say to yourself, I see you. I honor you. I trust the wisdom that moves within you. The universe will echo back the same recognition. You stand at the threshold where thought meets form and perception shapes reality. Evelyn's journey illuminates a truth woven through the fabric of existence. Manifestation is not about forcing outcomes, but about cultivating a state of being that naturally draws your deepest desires toward you. Evelyn had long believed her life was a sequence of random events, a chaotic arrangement of chance and circumstance. Yet, as she began tracing the invisible threads connecting her most joyful moments, a profound pattern emerged. Each success, each moment of unexpected grace, carried a singular quality, a sense of ease that preceded its physical arrival. There was a lightness to her most meaningful experiences, a quiet certainty that came before achievement, not after it. When she had secured her dream position, she recalled feeling its reality weeks before the offer materialized. When love found her, she had first developed a sense of wholeness that seemed to call her partner forward. The universe responds not to desperate grasping, but to the calm confidence of inner alignment. Your thoughts are not mere mental activity, but vibrant energy signatures that resonate beyond the boundaries of your mind. They are living frequencies that move with the greater symphony of existence. Bernard's wisdom emerged from something as ordinary as repairing a fence. As he worked, he noticed that the wooden boards, which yielded gently to pressure those that bent without resistance, never splintered or broke. His calm patience transformed the task, making completion flow with an almost effortless grace. This is the art of manifestation, not forcing, but allowing, not controlling, but aligning. Your inner state creates ripples that reshape external reality, much like a stone released into still water sends waves across the entire surface. When you learn to trust the invisible thread connecting your inner world to outer experience, you become a co-creator with the intelligence that underlies all things. Your thoughts are not fragile whispers, but coherent signals. Your feelings are not mere reactions, but creative instructions the universe responds to with precision. Alignment is not about achieving a state of perpetual positivity, It is about trust. It is about believing in unseen potential before physical evidence arrives to confirm it. Each moment of calm expectation is a seed released into the fertile ground of possibility. As evening arrives, notice one moment from today that seemed strangely guided, as though something unseen had arranged it for you. Offer it a quiet acknowledgement and allow tomorrow to continue the conversation. You stand now at the threshold of understanding how your inner world weaves the texture of external reality. The universe listens not to the surface of your words, but to the resonance of your emotional landscape. Hazel noticed a pattern in her detailed notebook of intentions. Those desires she described with genuine, unguarded feeling seemed to materialize with a precision that went beyond coincidence. It was not the words themselves that called her dreams forward, but the electric current of emotion that moved through her when she wrote them. When she described a home she longed for, she did not list its features mechanically. She felt the warmth of light streaming through windows. She sensed the quiet belonging of a space that was wholly hers. Floyd understood this principle through his work as a painter, a man of modest technical skill. He transformed his canvases by doing something his peers did not. He mixed emotions alongside pigments. When he painted landscapes, he did not merely observe color. He imagined warmth, allowing it to move through his hands and into each brushstroke. His work began to carry a quality that drew people in, not because of technical mastery, but because each canvas vibrated with the sincerity of his inner state. Creation is not about technique alone. It is about emotional alignment. Your desires do not materialize through mechanical effort, but through the quality of your inner experience. When you can feel the reality of what you are moving toward, as though it already exists, as though you are simply remembering it, you establish a magnetic field that draws that experience toward you with increasing speed. Speak one desire aloud each day, as though describing a memory already lived. Let your voice carry the warmth of something familiar, something already yours. This is not pretending. This is precision. This is how the field responds. Desire is not a desperate cry launched into emptiness, but a gentle, assured signal that the universe recognizes immediately. Ruth's journey reflects this. She had once pursued what she longed for with a kind of frantic, reaching hands outstretched, voice carrying the frequency of lack. Her requests echoed with the very absence she was trying to escape. But everything shifted when she understood that reaching from emptiness only reinforces emptiness. She learned instead to speak of what she wanted as a present reality, not a distant possibility. Her inner language moved from, "I hope this will happen," to, "This is already moving toward me." The subtle shift was everything. Marvin walked a similar path in his modest apartment, where others might have perceived only limitation. He blessed each corner, each wall, treating his small space as though it were already magnificent. He spoke to his surroundings with quiet reverence. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the space began to reflect his elevated perception. Unexpected beauty arrived not as random fortune, but as a natural response to the frequency he was consistently broadcasting. The universe listens not to your surface words, but to the emotional current beneath them. When you speak from a place of lack, you broadcast scarcity. When you speak from a place of abundance, even a quiet internal abundance, you broadcast an open invitation. Your desires are not separate requests sent into a void. They are living energies that pulse within you, seeking expression and form. The art is not in demanding, but in allowing. Imagine your desires as seeds already planted, requiring not your constant anxious checking, but the right conditions, the fertile soil of belief, the warm light of expectation, the steady water of consistent faith. Breathe with quiet assurance and repeat inwardly, "All things are preparing to meet me," because in some frequency of reality, they already have. Some who feel this particular pull, this sense that their awareness operates on a different register than those around them, find that certain numbers appear at moments of alignment, not as supernatural signs, but as the mind's way of marking coherence. If the number 1111 has appeared in your experience during moments of inner clarity, you may already understand what we mean. It tends to surface when something in your field is coming into focus. When you notice it, the question worth sitting with is not, "What does this mean?" but "What was I just thinking or feeling in that moment?" That is where the signal lives. Cora's small bakery between quiet streets became a living demonstration of a principle most people never directly observe. Her daily earnings shifted not with her hours of labor, but with the vibration of her inner experience. On days when joy moved effortlessly through her, customers seemed drawn by something they could not name. They would enter already smiling, stay longer than intended, and leave with more than they had planned to purchase. When her inner state shifted toward worry or scarcity, the same space grew still. The same offerings that had seemed luminous now appeared ordinary. This was not coincidence. It was a living demonstration of a universal rhythm. Your emotional state broadcasts, a frequency that the world responds to, arranging circumstances to match your inner music with a consistency that becomes impossible to dismiss once you begin watching for it. Chester's lemonade stand was more than a modest enterprise. It was a celebration made visible. Each afternoon he would arrange his simple table, not with calculations of profit, but with an infectious delight that transformed an ordinary transaction into an experience of genuine connection. Customers approached not merely for refreshment, but drawn toward the sound of his laughter, the authentic joy radiating from his entire being. Chester did not pursue customers. He attracted them by being a pure, unobstructed channel of something real. His offering became secondary to the emotional feast he provided, a reminder that abundance flows not from desperate effort, but from a heart that has learned to celebrate before the evidence arrives. The universe listens not to your words, but to the tone beneath them. Your feelings are the true currency of creation, moving faster and more powerfully than any physical effort you could sustain. When you generate an inner state of ease, of genuine receiving, of quiet celebration, you send a signal that reorganizes reality around your internal experience. Spend 1 minute each day generating the emotional texture of abundance with no object attached, no specific outcome required. Let the feeling itself be the practice. Let the heart become the instrument through which the field receives its instruction. Ida walked through years of her life with walls around her heart, convinced that genuine connection was a privilege extended to others, but never to her. Then something within her shifted, not through dramatic gesture, but through a quiet internal decision to trust before evidence arrived. She began to believe in the possibility of real connection before she could see it. That belief became a gentle invitation. Slowly, unexpectedly, the world around her began responding to her new internal landscape. A neighbor who had lived beside her for years suddenly shared a conversation over something small and ordinary. A colleague offered unexpected warmth during a difficult period. The external world was simply catching up with her internal shift. Vernon understood the power of inner rehearsal. While others saw only material and tools, Vernon felt the salt air of possibility. His hands carved a model ship not as passive hobby, but as an active conversation with what he intended to experience. When the intricate vessel was complete, something arrived that his imagination had already lived an invitation to sail, to experience the very journey he had rehearsed internally. The external world had simply caught up with his internal reality. Your inner world is the true blueprint of your experience. Believing is not waiting, it is creating. Your emotions, your expectations, your quiet convictions are the instruments through which new realities are purchased. Beatrice had spent decades believing that rest was a luxury for the uncommitted, that every moment not spent striving was a moment wasted. Her days were relentless, her mind perpetually churning, her body perpetually tensed. She pursued what she wanted, the way you might chase a horizon never arriving, never understanding that the very act of chasing was creating distance. The universe communicated its wisdom through unexpected means. One quiet afternoon, as exhaustion finally moved through her defenses, Beatrice experienced a momentary surrender. In that instant of complete stillness, something in the field around her became fluid and responsive, as though her internal landscape was rearranging without her frantic orchestration. Leroy discovered a similar principle during a rainstorm that would typically provoke frustration. Instead of resisting the water's rhythm, he moved with it. His calm acceptance transformed the experience from inconvenience into something closer to partnership. Where others perceived chaos, he found a kind of harmony available only to those who stop insisting on different conditions. Your resistance creates friction. Your acceptance generates flow. When you release the need to force the current of life, you allow an intelligence larger than your planning mind to navigate you toward what you most deeply desire. Sit silently and sense movement inside your stillness until peace itself begins to feel like forward motion. Your thoughts are not passive passengers moving through the landscape of your mind. They are alchemical agents capable of transforming the very texture of your experience from the inside out. Minnie understood this with a clarity that most people spend entire lifetimes approaching. Each morning she faced a choice that most people never consciously recognize as a choice at all. When shadows of monotony began coloring her day gray, she would pause, draw a slow breath, and deliberately reach for a thought that carried more light. Her kitchen, once a place of mechanical routine, became a space of quiet wonder, simply because she made a consistent decision to perceive it differently. The universe listens intently to the tone of your inner dialogue. Not occasionally, not when you are formally meditating or consciously trying, always. Your thoughts are not passive observers of your life. They are its active architects. When you notice yourself sliding into a narrative of limitation, you possess something more powerful than most people ever claim the ability to redirect. Not to deny what you are feeling, not to force a smile over genuine difficulty, but to gently reach for a thought that sits 1 degree lighter than where you currently are. Alvin understood this while standing in the kind of cold wind that invites complaint. Many would have surrendered to it immediately, allowing the discomfort to set the emotional tone for everything that followed. Instead, he paused. In that moment of stillness, he found something genuine to appreciate in the sharpness of the air, the way it clarified his thinking, the way it made him feel undeniably present and alive. Remarkably, as his perception shifted, so did his felt experience. Warmth began to emerge, not from any change in external temperature, but from the internal landscape he had consciously chosen to inhabit. This is the essence of thought management that actually works. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are the architect of the experience you have of those circumstances. Each thought is a brushstroke, each emotion a color with which you paint the reality you then inhabit. When heaviness arrives, and it will, this is not a path that promises the permanent elimination of difficulty. You need not battle it. You can instead guide yourself gently toward a slightly lighter perspective, the way you might adjust the brightness on a screen rather than smashing the device. The practice is simple in concept, profound in its sustained application. When thoughts of struggle or limitation surface, do not fight them. Instead, softly reach for something marginally better. Move 1 degree at a time, from frustration toward mild acceptance, from acceptance toward curiosity, from curiosity toward something that begins to feel like hope. Your thoughts are not random, static. They are signals you have the capacity to tune. Just as a receiver finds clearer transmission by adjusting its frequency, you can adjust your inner frequency with the same patient precision. The goal is never immediate, dramatic transformation. It is gentle, consistent redirection until the direction itself becomes natural. Lula's mornings contained a secret that transformed everything visible in her life. She would pause by her kitchen window, watching morning light move across the floor, and offer a quiet yes to the warmth. Not a complicated declaration, not a desperate plea directed at something distant. A simple acknowledgement of beauty that was already present. Her neighbors noticed something luminous about her, a quality that seemed to draw good fortune, the way certain flowers turn instinctively toward light. When birdsong drifted through her open window, she would let it fill her completely, accepting the sound as something offered specifically to this moment. When unexpected laughter reached her from a passing conversation outside, she would allow it to resonate within her rather than letting it pass unnoticed. Each yes was a soft invitation, a quiet signal that she was genuinely open to what the present moment contained. Franklin knew nothing of such philosophy. A man of calculation and deliberate planning, he had structured his entire life around managing variables and avoiding the unexpected. Opportunities were things to be analyzed before they could be trusted. But something shifted the afternoon. An unexpected invitation arrived, a colleague's offhand suggestion to attend a small gathering he would normally have declined with a list of rational reasons. Something he could not fully articulate prompted him to simply say yes. At that gathering, he met a connection that would reshape his entire professional trajectory, not through grand intervention, but through a single conversation that could only have occurred because he had been willing to be somewhere unexpected. The universe speaks a language beyond words. It understands the vibration of your openness, the frequency of your genuine willingness to receive. When you say yes, truly mean it, not just perform it, you are not merely agreeing to an external circumstance. You are aligning yourself with a current of possibility that has been waiting for exactly that signal. Tonight, before sleep arrives, recall 3 moments from today when you said yes. Not the grand decisions, the small surrenders, the kindness you accepted, the beauty you allowed in, the moment of unexpected connection you did not deflect. The universe registered each of those as precise instructions. In the quieter corners of life's unfolding, you will find that resistance is among the heaviest things you can carry. Nellie discovered this not through intellectual analysis, but through lived exhaustion. For years, she had gripped her expectations tightly, believing that control was the mechanism through which desires materialized. Her hands were always closed, her mind a fortress of predetermined outcomes. Her heart locked behind walls of rigid determination. But the intelligence of the universe whispers its most useful wisdom to those who develop the capacity to listen in stillness rather than in noise. Nellie found that manifestation flows not through force, but through a quality of acceptance that most people mistake for passivity. Like a river that finds its natural path not through violence but through patient responsiveness, your desires move most fluidly when you release the need to micromanage their journey. Gordon embodied this with remarkable simplicity. One evening, as moonlight moved across his desk, he wrote his deepest desires on paper, each word a breath of genuine intention, free from the desperation that so often contaminates such moments. Then he released them. He watched the paper transform, and in the days that followed, the very things he had written began to appear in his life, not through his straining or strategizing, but through a calm knowing that what is genuinely aligned with you will find its way to you when you stop blocking the path with anxious interference. Your desires are not battles to be won through willpower alone. They are guests to be welcomed. When you create space for possibility, internal space, the kind that only comes when you stop filling every quiet moment with more planning, the universe moves to fill that space with something real. Allow, rather than insist. Your role in this process is not passive, but it is profoundly receptive. Plant the seed of desire with clarity. Nurture it with genuine belief. Then trust the intelligence of the field to bring it into form without your constant anxious checking. Imagine your desire wrapped in gratitude, released into the field, its return not a question of if, but only of when. Bessie understood something that transformed her relationship with difficulty. Each morning, she would sit in stillness and surround her challenges with an inner quality of light, not as a denial of what was hard, but as a deliberate act of transmutation. She did not fight her obstacles. She changed her relationship to them. Where others perceived barriers, she discovered that challenges often contained within them the precise information she needed to move forward more effectively. Her daily practice was not wishful thinking or spiritual bypassing. It was a deeply embodied faith, not faith as a distant hope pinned on uncertain futures, but as a felt certainty that permeated her entire being and changed the quality of signal she was broadcasting into the field. Consider a radio technician who spent his working life understanding something profound about alignment. While tuning receivers, he observed consistently how static that irritating noise of disconnection would dissolve the instant the frequency aligned with perfect precision. His hands, moving with delicate patience across the dials, came to understand something about the universe that most people never consciously articulate. Harmony emerges not through force, but through attunement. Your inner world operates on identical principles. When your emotional frequency matches your desired reality, resistance dissolves. The static of doubt, fear, and uncertainty becomes a distant memory, replaced by a clear signal of possibility. You are not separate from the energetic landscape surrounding you. You are a living transmitter and receiver simultaneously. Your thoughts, emotions, and convictions are not passive experiences. They are active signals interacting constantly with the field that underlies all physical reality. Tune your attention to one reality that feels better than where you currently are, and remain there with patient consistency until the static disappears. Flora understood that her mind was not a passive receiver but an active creator, where each thought was a seed she could consciously select and consistently tend. She knew that emotional resonance was the water and sunlight of manifestation. When she smiled genuinely, her world responded with unexpected generosity in return. Clyde discovered a similar truth in the quiet ritual of his mornings. He recognized that the quality of his day was not determined by external conditions, but by the internal landscape he chose to inhabit before the world had a chance to set his frequency for him. Before the first light reached his window, he began blessing his morning, speaking words of gratitude, imagining ease, expecting the day to carry the same warmth he was generating internally. The universe, ever responsive to the tone of what it receives, listened. His mornings transformed from passages of time to be endured into canvases of genuine possibility. Your inner world is not separate from what appears around you. It is the blueprint, the energetic template from which physical reality continually emerges and rearranges itself. Just as a gardener understands that the quality of the soil determines the quality of the harvest, you must tend to the soil of your consciousness with equivalent care. When you plant thoughts of possibility, joy, and trust, you are not engaging in wishful thinking. You are participating in the alchemy of creation with the full weight of your awareness behind each intention. Your expectations are not mere predictions. They are invitations extended to potential, calling specific experiences into form. Upon waking, plant one genuinely pleasant thought and return to it throughout the day with consistent attention. Water it. What you consistently nourish will consistently grow. There are moments in a life when the field seems to pulse with a particular coherence, when what you were thinking and what then appeared in your experience align so precisely that coincidence no longer feels like an adequate explanation. Some who move through these experiences consciously find that certain numbers appear at such moments, not as mystical portents, but as the mind's natural way of marking states of inner alignment. The number 888 carries associations in various traditions with flow, with abundant cycles completing and renewing themselves. If you have noticed it appearing when things seem to be moving in the right direction, when a door opens unexpectedly, when something you had been holding lightly suddenly arrives, that observation itself may be more instructive than any external interpretation. What were you feeling in those moments? That is the data worth keeping. Agnes understood something profound about time, that it is not a rigid linear corridor, but a more fluid medium, where inner states and outer experiences reach toward each other across what we habitually call past and future. She would sit by her window and hold conversations with the version of herself who had already arrived at what she currently desired. Not as fantasy, not as escape, but as a genuine bridge between what existed and what was preparing to exist. Her belief was simple yet revolutionary: imagination is not mere entertainment. It is a genuine bridge between potential realities, and the crossing of that bridge begins internally before it becomes visible externally. Ernest repaired watches, and his work became a living metaphor for this principle. His hands moved with practiced precision among intricate mechanisms, but his deeper work happened in the realm of rhythm and belief. He understood that every system, whether a timepiece or the larger field of experience we navigate, pulses with an underlying harmony. When he repaired a watch, he would synchronize his own internal rhythm with the gentle ticking, believing that this alignment created a kind of coherence that extended beyond the mechanical. Every thought is a seed, every emotion, the water and sunlight that determine its development. When you approach what you wish to create with the same quality of attention Ernest brought to his work, with precision, with respect, with an underlying sense of the harmony already present, you establish the conditions for alignment that feels almost miraculous. Before sleep tonight, greet tomorrow's version of yourself. Feel both of you moving in the same direction. That internal agreement is not small. It is the field receiving a clear instruction. Sylvia's hands moved with unconscious grace, offering small kindnesses wherever she moved: a warm cup of tea to a weary neighbor, a spare moment of genuine listening to someone who needed to be heard. Each gesture emerged not from calculation of return, but from an inner source that seemed to replenish itself with every outward offering. The universe communicates a profound pattern through such lives. Generosity is not subtraction, it is circulation. When you give from genuine joy, you do not diminish what you have, you expand it. The energy of authentic kindness knows no boundaries, no fixed limits. It moves like water, finding its way through the smallest openings, nourishing everything it reaches. Norman moved through his days, scattering quiet kindness like seeds dropped without particular attention to where they might land. A moment of assistance here, a genuine word of encouragement there. His generosity asked nothing in specific return, and yet the world seemed to lean toward him consistently, offering unexpected connections, quiet moments of grace, opportunities that appeared without obvious cause. The mechanics of this are not mysterious once you understand the principle. When you offer without expectation, you signal to the field that your internal resource is not finite. You become a channel rather than a container. The energy moves through you rather than from you, which means it is never depleted. Every genuine act of giving sends ripples through the invisible fabric connecting all experience. Your kindness becomes a signal, a vibration that communicates abundance, trust, and interconnectedness to a universe that responds to exactly those qualities. Your capacity for giving is not measured by the scale of gesture, but by the quality of intention behind it. A genuine smile carries as much energetic weight as a substantial material gift when it springs from authentic care rather than performance. Offer one act of quiet, unannounced kindness today, not as a technique, not as a strategy, but as a celebration of the abundance that is already moving through you. Lillian watched how uncertainty would cause her muscles to tighten, her breath to shorten, her creativity to retreat. But something shifted when she learned to breathe differently, not controlling the breath as though it were a problem to be managed, but allowing it to move with its own natural intelligence. Her hands, once rigid with expectation, began to carry a new lightness. She noticed how her thinking became more fluid when she stopped damming its natural current with forced direction. Harrison understood this through music. In his small studio, he learned that perfection resided not in flawless execution, but in genuine expression. When he allowed his hands to move across the strings with the spontaneity of something unrehearsed, the music began to carry a quality that no amount of practiced precision could manufacture. Mistakes became unexpected harmonies rather than evidence of failure, and in that space of genuine trust, something emerged that technical skill alone could never produce. The universe responds to your internal rhythm. When you release the grip of forced outcomes, you create space for something more elegant than anything you could have engineered through effort alone. Let your breath move like music, steady, unhurried, trusting that each note is arriving at precisely the right moment. Hattie understood something that most people spend a lifetime circling without ever landing on directly. Where others perceived obstacles arriving at their door, she recognized orchestration's precise arrangements that carried within them the exact information needed for her next level of growth. When challenges appeared, she did not brace against them with the energy of resistance. She met them with a quality of openness that transformed their texture almost immediately. Her gratitude was not performance. It was not the kind of forced positivity that papers over genuine difficulty with brittle cheerfulness. It was a genuine melody that reshaped the experience from the inside, the way a shift in lighting can transform the entire feeling of a room without changing a single piece of furniture within it. She knew that resistance creates friction, but appreciation creates flow not as a philosophical position, but as a lived, felt reality she had tested against the actual conditions of her life. Clifford ran a modest bakery, and during the kinds of storms that sent other merchants into quiet desperation, he stood at his wooden counter kneading dough with rhythmic contentment. Each thunderclap became, in his perception, another instrument, joining the kitchen's symphony. He would whisper genuine thanks for the power of the storm, for the way it made the warmth of his space feel more vivid by contrast. His bread seemed to respond. Customers noticed something in the loaves baked during storms, a quality of warmth and resilience that mirrored something in Clifford himself. His bakery became known not merely for what it produced, but for the way difficulty seemed to transform in its atmosphere. The universe listens to the frequency of your appreciation with remarkable sensitivity. When you offer genuine thanks for an inconvenience, not denying its reality, but acknowledging its potential to teach, to redirect, to strengthen you, transmute its energy, you are not telling yourself a comfortable lie. You are changing your actual relationship to the experience, which changes the experience itself. Whisper appreciation for one difficulty today, and watch it begin to reveal what it was actually carrying for you. Esther had long confused intensity with momentum. Her ambitions felt like a consuming fire, urgent, relentless, burning through everything in their path, including her own peace. She believed, as many do, that the weight of her striving was proportional to the likelihood of her arriving. That effort demanded a kind of violence against comfort, against rest, against the present moment. Arthur showed her something different. A quiet man who understood the subtle dynamics of how energy actually moves. He demonstrated through the steadiness of his own creative life that inspiration flows not from forceful pushing, but from a quality of gentle, consistent allowing. When he worked by candlelight, his flame did not flicker with desperate urgency. It glowed with an assured, steady presence. Passion, he understood, is not violence. It is a warm current, a consistent inner energy that knows its own strength without needing to prove it through relentless exertion. His understanding invited Esther to reimagine her entire relationship with desire. She began to perceive her goals not as distant conquests requiring siege tactics, but as natural extensions of what she already was internally. Like a candle's flame, her aspirations could illuminate without consuming, guide without scorching. The universe, she gradually understood, responds to calm certainty far more readily than to frantic striving. When you align with the feeling of what you wish to create, not from a place of lack or urgency, but from an abundant sense of already belonging to that reality, manifestation becomes fluid, almost effortless. Not because you stopped caring, but because you stopped pushing against the very thing you were trying to draw toward you. Sense desire as a warmth in your chest, steady, glowing, patient. That frequency carries farther than urgency ever could. Pearl discovered something more valuable than any external recognition she had ever received. She discovered the power of her own approval as a creative force. Imagine a reality in which your worth is not calibrated by applause or advancement or the shifting assessments of others. Picture instead a life in which your own quiet, genuine affirmation becomes the primary signal you broadcast into the field. Pearl learned that every time she acknowledged her inherent value with real feeling rather than performance, the universe moved to reflect that recognition back through her circumstances. Jerome embodied this with elegant simplicity. Before significant moments in his professional life, he would stand before his own reflection, meet his own gaze directly, and speak two words with genuine conviction: I approve. Not as a boastful declaration, not as a compensation for hidden doubt, as a quiet, confident acknowledgement of something he had already decided was true about himself. His advancement did not arrive because he pursued it with frantic energy. It arrived because he had already claimed his worth internally, and the external world was simply catching up with a decision already made in the field of his own consciousness. The external world is a mirror. It reflects the frequency of your inner landscape with a consistency that becomes unmistakable once you begin to observe it honestly. When you genuinely approve of yourself, not from ego, not from comparison, but from a space of deep and compassionate self-recognition, you emit a vibration that the field cannot ignore. Your self-validation becomes a magnetic force, drawing toward you the opportunities, connections, and experiences that match the frequency of your intrinsic worth. Each morning, stand before your reflection. Look into your own eyes without deflecting. Speak softly, but without wavering. I am already enough. Not as a phrase to be repeated mechanically, but as a truth to be genuinely felt. Watch as reality begins to rearrange itself around that recognition. Lois had once kept careful internal accounts, tracking each kindness extended, each generosity offered, watching to see whether the universe was balancing its ledger fairly in her direction. But wisdom arrived through a gradual softening of that accounting mind. True abundance, she came to understand, flows not from careful calculation, but from the pure intention of an open heart. When she began to see her actions as genuine offerings rather than transactions, something in the quality of what returned to her shifted completely. Randall moved through city streets each morning, releasing warmth, a genuine smile here, a real moment of eye contact there, not demanding acknowledgement, simply allowing his inner state to move outward without condition. Weeks passed, and those who had received his initial warmth began greeting him with a recognition that felt like something older than their brief acquaintance could explain. The universe is not a marketplace of strict accounting. It is a living web of energy that reflects your innermost vibration back to you, not necessarily through the same channel through which you sent it, but always in some form that matches the quality of what you offered. Your generosity is not about keeping score. It is about understanding that you are simultaneously the source and the receiver of whatever quality of energy you consistently generate. When you offer genuine kindness without expectation of specific return, you become something larger than a single participant in an exchange. You become a conduit for a current that moves through you and nourishes everything it touches. Offer silent blessings to whoever crosses your awareness today, a face remembered, a stranger glimpsed. Trust that the energy of genuine goodwill circles home, not as a precisely balanced transaction, but as a wave of something real that transforms whatever it reaches. Celia had believed for most of her life that fate was a fixed structure, predetermined, immovable, something that happened to a person rather than something a person participated in creating. Then, she discovered the revolutionary truth that most people encounter only after significant time has passed, that every microscopic decision carries within it the potential to rewrite the entire unfolding narrative of a life. Not the grand decisions alone, the small ones, the tiny pivots of attention, the slight adjustments in perception, the moments when you choose one quality of response over another. Willie's story captures this with unexpected precision. One ordinary morning, he turned left where he would typically have turned right. What appeared to be a minor deviation in physical direction became, through the logic of an intelligent and responsive universe, a gateway to an opportunity wearing the disguise of simple change. The universe does not distinguish between grand gestures and subtle shifts of inner state. It responds to the energy of your intention with equal attention regardless of the scale of the external action. Your power is concentrated in the present moment, in the space between thought and response, between stimulus and the choice of how to meet it. Each decision is not merely a movement through space, but a vibrational signal broadcasting your current inner alignment into the field. When you choose from a quality of lightness and ease, you are tuning your internal frequency to the station where effortless manifestation becomes the natural outcome rather than the occasional miracle. Before any decision, no matter how seemingly minor, pause and notice which option feels lighter in your body. Not which option is more logical, not which one others would approve of. Which one carries less weight? That sensation is not random preference. It is information from a deeper intelligence than analytical thinking alone can access. You stand at the threshold where each breath becomes a bridge between what currently exists and what is quietly preparing to emerge. Your breath is not merely biological maintenance. It is a living instrument of creation, ancient in its intelligence, precise in its responsiveness. When you inhale consciously, You are drawing in the infinite possibilities that the field holds in potential at every moment. When you exhale with intention, you are releasing your deepest signal into the world, sculpting the invisible landscape of your experience with something more fundamental than words or effort. Melvin understood this through the wind chimes he crafted with patient attention. Each carefully shaped tone was more than sound. It was a vibrational prayer, a harmonic conversation with the intelligence underlying physical reality. His breath, synchronized with the gentle movement of the chimes, became a bridge between intention and manifestation. He understood intuitively that creation is not about forcing specific outcomes through the strength of your will, but about bringing your inner rhythm into alignment with the larger symphony already playing. Your breath knows things your thinking mind has not yet articulated. It knows how to transform. It knows how to open. When you breathe with genuine conscious intention, you are no longer simply existing within your circumstances. You are conducting the orchestra of your own reality with the most direct instrument available to you. Each inhalation is a gathering of light, of potential, of possibility that has not yet taken specific form. Each exhalation is a release of faith, sending your clearest signal dancing into the field where it will find its corresponding physical form. Breathe as though each inhalation gathers light from the space around you, and each exhalation carries your deepest intention outward. This is not metaphor. This is the most direct conversation available to you with the intelligence that underlies all form. Josephine spent years perceiving unwelcome experiences as obstacles placed deliberately in her path, moments of frustration that existed to derail or delay her. But gradually, through patient observation of her own life's patterns, she discovered that each uncomfortable situation was not a roadblock, but a precise instrument of revelation. When something appears contrary to what you immediately want, it is not punishment arriving in the form of circumstance. It is clarification. The universe speaks through contrast with remarkable specificity, drawing clear lines around what you genuinely desire by first showing you, with equal clarity, what you do not. Every moment of resistance is an opportunity to refine your understanding, to distill your preferences with a precision that wishful thinking alone could never achieve. Howard experienced this during his daily commute, through the kind of traffic that most people allow to set their emotional tone for hours afterward. Where others encountered stalled movement as a source of genuine frustration, he recognized it as a canvas. Stuck between rows of unmoving vehicles, he would close his eyes briefly and breathe into the vision of open, flowing roads. He did not fight his current experience. He used it as a precise compass, pointing toward what he actually wanted to feel and experience. His mental images were not desperate, pleading with a universe that wasn't listening. They were calm, certain declarations of a future already in motion. And the external world responded with a consistency he eventually stopped being surprised by. Traffic would ease, routes would open. His journeys became fluid not because his circumstances had become objectively easier, but because his relationship to contrast had fundamentally changed. This is the profound law of contrast at work in a life that has learned to read it correctly. It does not exist to frustrate you. It exists to focus you. Like a lens adjusting its field of view, contrast sharpens your ability to see with increasing precision exactly what you are moving toward. Each moment that feels wrong is pointing with considerable accuracy toward what feels right. When annoyance or resistance surfaces, there is available within that very moment a signal, a clarification of your next joy. Wearing temporarily the costume of frustration, smile at it. Not with false cheerfulness, but with the genuine recognition of someone who has learned to read the map. Martha understood that seeing was not merely believing, but actively inviting. Each morning she would close her eyes and construct her desired future with such vivid emotional detail that the boundary between imagination and reality began to lose its sharpness. She did not hope or wish with the passive quality those words usually carry. She remembered. Her mind became a canvas where what she desired was not a distant possibility, but a living experience already in motion, somewhere in the field of what was becoming real. Roger applied this understanding to a business venture before a single external step had been taken. Before signing any agreements, before making any plans, he saturated his awareness with the lived experience of a thriving enterprise. He heard the conversations of satisfied people, felt the energy of something working exactly as intended. This is not daydreaming in the passive sense. This is deliberate creation, the conscious use of your imagination as the precise tool it actually is, rather than the idle entertainment most people reduce it to. You are not waiting for opportunity to materialize from outside your awareness and present itself to you. You are crafting the conditions of its arrival from the inside. The universe responds to the emotional landscape of your inner world, organizing circumstances to match your most consistently held beliefs and expectations with a patience and precision that becomes undeniable once you begin to observe it honestly. Hold your inner vision with gentle certainty, not with the white-knuckled grip of desperation, but with the relaxed assurance of someone who has already decided. What you can see internally, with genuine emotional richness, will find its way into physical form. Picture one goal, not as something you are pursuing, but as something you are remembering. Let the satisfaction of its completion fill you completely. That feeling is not pretending. That feeling is the signal. Anita once scattered her energy across multiple simultaneous hopes, afraid that focusing fully on one might cause another to dissolve. Her mind was a constant motion of half-completed intentions, each one receiving too little of her attention to gather genuine momentum. But manifestation speaks a different truth than most people's relationship with desire reflects. It speaks of presence, of being so fully immersed in the current moment and the single clear intention it carries, that time becomes fluid and possibility blooms naturally from a stillness that most people never allow themselves to reach. Lloyd spent years in his small repair shop, moving mechanically through his work, his mind scattered across past conversations and future concerns, never fully present to the intricate universe beneath his hands. Then something shifted. He began to perceive each piece not as a task to complete efficiently, but as a complete world of interconnected movements, each one worthy of his full attention. His hands moved with a new quality of reverence. Customers began to feel something different in what they received from him, not just functional repair, but the felt sense of genuine care. His business grew not through marketing or strategy, but through the pure, unmistakable energy of someone fully present to what they were doing. The universe responds to undivided attention with a consistency that cannot be explained by conventional logic alone. When you scatter your energy across multiple concerns simultaneously, you signal uncertainty, division, a kind of internal conflict about what you actually want. But when you pour your complete awareness into a single moment, a single intention, a single act of genuine creation, you generate a resonance so coherent that reality cannot help but begin organizing itself around your focus. Your manifestations do not require heroic effort. They require your full, genuine presence, the kind that transforms every ordinary act into something the field can respond to with clarity. Devote your complete awareness to one single act today until time dissolves around the edges of your attention. There are specific configurations of number that certain traditions associate with the quality of complete alignment, with the sense that something which has been building in the invisible field is finally arriving at its visible expression. The number 777 appears in multiple systems as a marker of this kind of convergence, of inner work, reaching a point where outward form begins to catch up. If this number has appeared at moments in your own experience, when something felt like it was finally clicking into place, when a period of effort seemed to be resolving into something clearer, that pattern may be more worth noting than dismissing. Not as external magic, but as your own awareness, recognizing states of coherence it has learned to identify. What was present in you during those moments is the more interesting question than what the number itself means in isolation. Mabel spent years pursuing external validation with an energy that always seemed to produce the opposite of what she was seeking, because the seeking itself broadcast a frequency of insufficiency that the field simply reflected back. Her journey mirrors something recognizable in most human lives: the long path of seeking approval from the world before understanding that the only approval capable of actually changing anything is the kind you extend to yourself, with genuine feeling. The internal voices that have competed within you, some whispering doubt, others echoing past criticism, and beneath them all, a quieter knowing of your own worth. These are not enemies requiring defeat. They are harmonies waiting to be integrated into something more complete than any single voice alone could be. Leonard stood before an unfinished sculpture and recognized something that changed his entire relationship with his own creative life. That completion is not about the elimination of flaws, but about embracing what already exists with enough genuine appreciation that the rough edges become part of the work rather than evidence against it. In that moment of radical acceptance, the piece seemed to transform without his hands having touched it again. Your life is that sculpture. Each experience, each perceived imperfection, each triumph and stumbling, every one of these is a mark contributing to the particular form that only you could take. The world does not require you to be smooth and without texture. It invites you to be authentically, courageously present as what you actually are. Presence is not a destination you arrive at after sufficient self-improvement. It is the breath you take right now with full acceptance of this exact moment. List silently the ways you already carry what you are seeking. Let the recognition hum through you without argument. Opal had spent years watching the achievements of others through a lens of quiet scarcity. Each advancement her colleagues reached seemed to underscore, by contrast, the distance between where she was and where she wanted to be. She had internalized, without ever consciously choosing to, the belief that success existed in limited supply, that the universe maintained a fixed inventory of good fortune, and every portion claimed by someone else reduced what remained available to her. Then came the moment that changed everything. Not a dramatic revelation, not a sudden external shift, but a simple, genuine surge of joy when a colleague announced something remarkable. For the first time, Opal felt another person's success as something that expanded the field rather than contracted it. She realized in that instant that her colleague's arrival at something wonderful did not diminish her own potential by a single degree. It demonstrated, with living evidence, that the territory of possibility was larger than her scarcity thinking had allowed her to perceive. Gilbert operated in a competitive professional environment and made a practice that most of his peers would have found puzzling. He genuinely celebrated the achievements of the people around him, not as performance, not as strategy, but as a natural expression of his understanding that abundance is not competitive in its essential nature. When a colleague closed a significant deal, Gilbert was the first to offer sincere acknowledgement, his enthusiasm carrying none of the subtle resentment that poisons most professional congratulations. The universe, you will discover through your own observation, operates on the principle of resonance with remarkable consistency. When you celebrate another's advancement without reservation, you align yourself with the frequency of success itself, not as something belonging to specific individuals, but as a quality of energy moving through a field that everyone participates in simultaneously. Your genuine appreciation becomes a signal, communicating to the intelligence of that field that you are not operating from scarcity, not from fear of being left behind, but from an understanding of abundance that the field can only respond to by sending more of what you are demonstrating you already understand. This is not about performed positivity or the exhausting maintenance of a cheerful surface over genuine feeling. It is about recognizing, at the level of actual conviction, that true success is interconnected in its deepest nature. Each person's genuine achievement is a thread woven into the larger possibility available to everyone. When you honor another's journey with sincerity, you expand your own energetic capacity, not metaphorically, but in the actual quality of signal you are broadcasting into the field that determines what finds its way to you. Gilbert's approach transformed his entire professional landscape without a single deliberate strategy aimed at his own advancement. Colleagues who had perceived him as competition began to experience him as something more valuable, an ally in a universe that had enough for everyone willing to understand that. Opportunities arrived not through his manipulation of circumstances, but through the magnetic pull of someone who genuinely understood how abundance actually moves. Bless the success you witness today in a stranger, in a colleague, in someone whose life appears from the outside to be further along than yours. Each genuine blessing you offer is an investment in the field you also inhabit. Abundance is not competitive, it is contagious, and it moves first through those who have already decided to believe in its infinite supply. Eleanor had spent decades in a kind of running relationship with her own fears, always slightly ahead of them, always aware of their presence just behind her, never quite far enough away to forget they were following. She had tried many approaches to the problem of fear, most of them involving some form of outrunning, suppressing, or reasoning her way past what frightened her. But something shifted the day she made a different choice, not to run faster, but to turn around, not with weapons of resistance or the armor of forced courage, but with the soft gaze of someone genuinely curious about what was actually there. What she discovered when she stopped fleeing was not the monster her avoidance had been inflating for years. She found something much smaller and more recognizable. A frightened part of herself that had been trying, in the only language it knew, to protect her from something it perceived as dangerous. Beneath every fear she examined with this quality of gentle attention lived a tender wish for safety, for belonging, for the kind of love that does not require performance to remain. Tobias carried his fears differently, not suppressing them, not dramatizing them, but holding them the way you might hold something small and trembling, with enough steadiness that the trembling gradually subsides without force. In the act of holding without crushing, of witnessing without condemning, both the fear and Tobias himself found a stillness that neither had been able to access while one was running from the other. The universe operates on a fundamental principle that fear, in its deepest nature, is not a wall, but a gate, not a barrier to your expansion, but an invitation to a deeper quality of self-knowledge than comfort alone can provide. Each fear carries precise information about your boundaries, your vulnerabilities, the places in your inner landscape where old experiences have left their marks. When you approach these places with genuine openness, rather than the energy of trying to eliminate what you find there, they cannot help but begin to transform. This is not about the elimination of fear as a felt experience. It is about changing your relationship to it so fundamentally that it loses its capacity to make your decisions for you. Close your eyes and find the place where a current fear lives in your body. Do not push against it. Instead, bring to it the quality of attention you would offer, something that deserved to be understood. Whisper to it, "I see you. I am listening. You are welcome here." Greet one fear today with that quality of genuine curiosity, and notice what it was actually trying to tell you beneath the noise of its alarm. Dorcas understood something about manifestation that most people who study the subject miss entirely, that the emotional tone present during visualization is not merely a companion to the process, but its actual engine. In her small cottage, she learned to approach her imagination not as a serious workshop demanding concentration and effort, but as a genuine playground where joy was not a reward for correct practice, but the practice itself. When she envisioned what she was moving toward, she did not furrow her brow with the effort of correct technique. She allowed genuine delight to surface, treating her inner vision with the lightness of someone who had already decided that the journey itself was worth enjoying. Edwin approached his own desires with a comedian's understanding of timing and lightness. While others around him treated manifestation as something requiring solemn attention and careful protocol, Edwin would rehearse his successes internally with chuckles and playful inner gestures, as though previewing a story he already found genuinely funny in its eventual happy resolution. And the universe seemed to respond to this frequency with a particular enthusiasm. Opportunities arrived not merely as achievements, but as scenarios carrying his own signature quality of unexpected humor and ease. The universe, observed honestly over time, appears to respond not to the seriousness of your demands, but to the quality of your genuine joy. Your inner emotional landscape broadcasts a signal more consequential than any calculated effort you could sustain through discipline alone. When you approach what you are creating with authentic delight, not forced positivity, not performed enthusiasm, but the real thing, you transform manifestation from a rigid process requiring perfect execution into a fluid, natural movement toward what already belongs to you. Your emotions are not secondary to your intentions. They are the very frequency through which your intentions travel into the field. Laugh lightly while holding any dream today. Let joy be the vehicle rather than the reward. The universe tends to deliver things wearing the emotional signature you used when you first genuinely invited them. Lucille's life became her own most compelling evidence for a truth that most people only encounter intellectually without ever feeling it land at the level where it can actually change something. Change is not something that arrives from outside and acts upon you. It is something that begins inside and gradually becomes visible in the world around you. Not because you forced the world to comply with your preferences, but because you shifted the frequency of what you were consistently broadcasting until the world had no choice but to reflect something different back. Milton traced the origins of his most persistent limitations back to stories he had been telling himself with such consistency that they had begun to feel like objective descriptions of reality rather than narratives he was actively maintaining through repetition. Each story was a kind of spell not in the theatrical sense, but in the very precise sense that language and belief, consistently combined, do actually construct the experiential reality a person inhabits. When Milton recognized this, he did not attempt to force a dramatic rewrite of everything at once. He began editing gently, with the compassion of someone who understood that the old stories had served a purpose, even if that purpose was now complete. Where once he had narrated obstacles, he began noticing openings. Where rejection had previously seemed like the universe's definitive assessment of his worth, he began reading the same events as redirections toward better alignment. His gentle, consistent rewriting transformed not merely his perception, but the actual texture of what continued to arrive in his experience. This is the secret that lives between the lines of every genuine transformation story. Awareness is the catalyst that dissolves the old timeline and initiates conscious creation of the new one. Your thoughts are not merely passing weather moving through the sky of your mind. They are the architects of the landscape you then walk through. Each belief you hold is a blueprint. Each emotion, a force that builds according to that blueprint with remarkable faithfulness. The universe does not distinguish between what you fear and what you desire. It responds with equal precision to the frequency you emit with genuine feeling, regardless of whether that feeling is one you would consciously choose. When you speak to yourself with genuine kindness, with real expectation of grace, with the quiet assurance of someone who has decided that good things are not only possible, but likely, reality begins rearranging itself to match that vibration with a speed that can be startling when you first begin to observe it clearly. Affirm now, with genuine feeling rather than mechanical repetition, that reality is responsive to your belief. Then watch what the next several days bring as evidence. Winifred's story opens a doorway that logic alone cannot fully enter. When she dreamed of her childhood garden, the honeysuckle, the weathered wooden fence, the particular quality of light on summer afternoons, she was not merely accessing memory. She was generating a vibrational invitation that the field around her received as instruction. The flowers that appeared outside her window in the days that followed were not coincidence in the dismissive sense that word usually carries. They were correspondence, the universe, translating her inner landscape into physical form with the precise fidelity of a system that has no interest in the distinction between what you are remembering and what you are imagining. Each carried the signature of her experienced joy. Each was a testament to the permeability of the boundary most people treat as absolute between their inner world and the world they then perceive as external and separate from themselves. Everett understood what Winifred's flowers represented not as fantasy, but as communication. Dreams, he had come to understand through careful attention to the patterns of his own life, are not escapes from reality, but transmissions, precise signals moving between the self and the larger intelligence that shapes the field of experience. Your imagination is not separate from the world you inhabit. It is one of the primary forces through which that world is continuously shaped and reshaped. Every thought carries a frequency. Every visualization, a potential blueprint that the field receives and begins organizing around with a patience that outlasts any momentary doubt you bring to the process. Before sleeping tonight, imagine a doorway of light, not as an escape from your current reality, but as a genuine remembrance of the fluid nature of the boundary between what you currently perceive as possible and what is quietly waiting to emerge into your experience. Step through it, not with desperate urgency, but with the calm curiosity of someone who has begun to understand that the territory on the other side has always been available. You are simultaneously the traveler and the path. The dreamer whose dreaming shapes what waking then finds waiting. Nora had built an elaborate system for tracking the universe's communications journals, filled with interpretations, walls decorated with charts. Her attention, a constant radar scanning every event for significance. She was deeply sincere in her searching. And yet the very intensity of her seeking was creating a frequency of insufficiency that kept pushing away the experiences she was trying so hard to attract. True wisdom arrived not through more sophisticated technique, but through a moment of genuine surrender. One autumn morning when golden light moved through her window and she simply stopped, not in defeat, but in recognition. The universe, she understood in that stillness, does not respond to frantic hunting with increased generosity. It responds to peaceful allowance, to the quality of inner space created when you release your grip on the outcome and trust the intelligence of the field to deliver what is genuinely aligned with you in its own timing. Calvin had been waiting for something significant for months, checking obsessively for signs of its arrival. His attention, a constant, anxious monitoring of every possible channel through which it might appear. Then one afternoon, for no particular strategic reason, he simply cleaned his desk. With each paper sorted, each surface cleared, he was releasing, without naming it as such, his attachment to controlling the form and timing of what he was waiting for. In that moment of calm, purposeful action, entirely unrelated to his waiting, the thing he had been waiting for arrived, not through extraordinary means, through the ordinary flow of a field that had been waiting for exactly that quality of relaxed openness to deliver what had been prepared. Your manifestations are not hiding from you. They are waiting for the inner conditions that allow them to approach. Your calm is not passive resignation. It is the most active thing you can offer the welcome mat that signals to what is coming that it is genuinely safe to arrive. Sit in stillness once each day and let all desire rest without suppression, trusting that quietness is not the absence of creation, but its most fertile condition. Ada had spent years believing that life was a puzzle, requiring the right combination of strategic moves to solve a labyrinth that rewarded those who planned most carefully with the outcomes they were seeking. She mapped courses, constructed elaborate strategies, and consistently found herself arriving somewhere other than where her planning had aimed. Amos had built his entire professional identity around rational analysis, diagramming opportunities, calculating risk, drafting approaches that addressed every variable he could identify. And yet, something always felt absent from the results. A resonance, a sense of genuine fit between what he was doing and what he was actually for. One afternoon, exhausted by his own careful planning, he tried something that went against every instinct his training had developed. Instead of analyzing the next step, he simply asked himself what felt genuinely exciting, not what made strategic sense, not what others would validate, what made something in him quicken with real interest. The answer pointed somewhere his spreadsheets would never have directed him, and the opportunity that unfolded through following that direction bore no resemblance to his original plans, yet resonated with a depth of rightness that his most carefully calculated moves had never produced. Your emotional landscape is not a weakness to be managed through discipline. It is a sophisticated navigation system, more accurate than analytical thinking alone, when the question involves the direction of your actual life. Joy is not merely pleasant sensation. It is information. Expansion is not merely comfort. It is confirmation of alignment. Notice throughout your day which thoughts feel like morning light coming through a window, warming you from within, making everything they touch feel more alive. Follow those directions, even when they appear unconventional, especially then. Sally's understanding arrived through a moment of recognition that reframed everything she had believed about achievement. Every dream realized, she discovered, is not a destination finally reached, but a launching point, a place from which broader horizons of possibility become visible that were simply not accessible from where she had been standing before. Eugene sat with a list of things he had once only imagined, crossing items off one by one, and found himself moved not by the satisfaction of completion, but by something more interesting, the way each fulfilled intention had quietly transformed him in the process of its arrival. He was not the same person who had written those words. The dreams had delivered not just their external content, but an internal expansion that made the next horizon visible in a way it had not been before. Your desires are not containers to be filled and then set aside. They are portals through which you step into wider versions of what you are capable of experiencing and becoming. Each manifestation carries within it the seed of the next evolution, not as burden, but as invitation. The practice of conscious creation is not a technique you apply to a fixed self in order to acquire fixed things. It is a living process through which both the creator and the creation continuously expand. After each success, however small, pause long enough to feel how you have shifted. Notice the new landscape that has become visible from where you now stand. Thank what arrived not merely for its external content, but for the internal revolution it quietly completed in you. That gratitude is not sentiment. It is the signal that you are ready for the next threshold. Carrie watched a sunrise one morning with the quality of attention that transforms ordinary experience into genuine revelation. She understood in that moment something that most people sense occasionally, but rarely sustain. That consciousness is not a fixed window through which a fixed person views a fixed world. It is a living, responsive energy that expands with every moment of genuine seeing. Each conscious perception does not merely register what is already there. It participates in creating what becomes available to be perceived. Jasper stood beneath a sky filled with more stars than ordinary attention. Usually notices and understood that his gaze was not passive. The quality of his wonder was itself a force, one that the stars seemed, from his perspective, to respond to with increased luminosity. Whether the stars actually brightened, or whether his own expanding awareness made them more available to his perception, is a distinction that matters less than the underlying principle it illustrates. Your awareness is not a window. It is a dynamic force that shapes and continuously reshapes the fabric of what you experience as reality. Every time you choose to see beyond your current understanding, to hold a question with genuine curiosity rather than demanding the comfort of a settled answer, you stretch the membrane of what is possible for you. The universe does not resist this expansion. It has been waiting for it. Every time you move beyond a previous boundary, reality reorganizes itself to match your new level of perception with a generosity that becomes more visible the more consistently you show up at the edge of what you currently know and look further. This is where your journey with MindRise audiobooks does not conclude, but opens. Everything you have moved through in this listening is not information to be stored and referenced later. It is a frequency shift that has already begun. The stories, the principles, the practices, none of these were intended to give you new ideas to think about. They were intended to remind you of what some part of you has always already known, that you are not a passive recipient of whatever the world decides to deliver, that your inner state is not a reaction to circumstances, but a creative force that precedes them, that the distance between where you are and where you sense you could be is not measured in external steps, but in the quality of alignment between what you feel and what you genuinely believe is available to you. What you do with the next 3 days matters, not because a deadline is approaching, but because something in the field around you has already begun to reorganize in response to the attention you have brought to these ideas. The preparation is not ahead of you. It has been happening throughout this entire listening. You are not the same frequency you were when you pressed play. And from this new frequency, what arrives next will reflect that shift with a precision that may surprise you or may simply feel like the quiet arrival of something you somehow already knew was coming. Every morning is a threshold. Every breath a fresh signal sent into a field that is always listening, always arranging, always moving in the direction of what you most consistently and genuinely feel to be true. You are the magnet. You are the mirror. You are the melody through which the universe hears itself. And from this position, this exact position, right now, everything listens. Everything responds. If something in this listening landed in a place that felt less like new information and more like remembrance, that quality of recognition is itself a signal worth noting. Some people find that certain numbers appear at moments when that feeling is strongest, not as external signs requiring interpretation, but as the mind's natural way of marking states of inner coherence. If you feel moved to leave a number in the comments, 777, 333, 888, 1000, 111, or 520, consider it a quiet marker of this moment, not a task, not a requirement. Simply a way of acknowledging, to yourself as much as to anyone else, that something here resonated at a frequency you recognize. Those who feel it will understand. Those who don't are exactly where they need to be as well. There is no wrong response to a genuine moment of alignment. There is only the quality of attention you choose to bring to what comes next.